Hello everyone and welcome back to the Common Sense Crypto channel. As with you always, this is Rich doing another video today on XRP. So I hope you're all having a wonderful day today wherever you are in this great world. We're gonna talk about XRP. And in that last video, I was talking about the ETFs and how that's going to give XRP a push in October. So can XRP price break $2.80 as SEC sets 75-day ETF deadline? So we know that the SEC changed the rules on ETFs. And we already seen some XRP ETFs go live, and ETFs that include XRP with other cryptocurrencies go live as well. So this is the deadline. Grayscale, 21 shares, Bitwise, Canary Capital, Wisdom Tree, and Franklin Templeton, all between October 18th and November 14th. But here's my thoughts. I think because they put a deadline date on it, I still think they're going to go live earlier than expected. I think it's going to come out of nowhere sometime in October. And when that happens, I think that could really get this market moving. But at least we got a deadline date instead of guessing, well, maybe it could happen on this day in this month. They actually put a time frame on it. Did you know that in the early days of Ripple, they decided between 3 different use cases to focus on? Cross-border payments, a global digital ID system, and smart contracts platform. As we know, they chose cross-border payments. Right now, everybody's talking about global digital ID. I am glad Ripple decided to go more towards cross-border payments. But digital ID is coming. Everybody knows that it's going to happen. And they'll tell you it's for your own good early on. You have to get this if you want to participate. And it's going to benefit you in so many different ways. But we all know that there's a dark side to digital ID. And the reason Ripple didn't go with a smart contracts platform is because it would have slowed down and made cross-border payments more expensive. I like the direction Ripple went in. A whale purchased 17,555,420 XRP, which is worth $48.9 million. And the one thing I want to point out, look at the fee, a penny to do that. But this is not your average whale buying XRP. These look like institutional purchases to me. And a lot of these are even bigger purchases than this. I think everybody right now is getting positioned for what comes next. And that's why I always told retail XRP investors, buy now while the price is dirt cheap. Position yourself now before the next move up happens. The next move up is coming. That is absolutely going to happen. You got to position yourself while you still can. And it looks like XRP is now tied in with Star Wars. Luke Skywalker's X-Wing has the unique identity AA-589. The movies never say it out loud, but they hide it in the sneakiest way possible. Is Luke's X-Wing the perfect metaphor for XRP? An X with 589 tied to its identity that takes down the Death Star. I think it's a little bit of a reach, but hey, 589 will always be part of the XRP community. And who knows, maybe they knew all the way back then. We've seen it in other movies as well along the way. One thing I do notice more now than ever before, crypto is mentioned in so many different movies now. And it's not in a bad way anymore. Like years ago, they used to always say, well, this guy's stealing money and he's using cryptocurrency to do it. Now it's like, hey, he's a crypto investor. That's where all his money's coming from. In other words, they're telling people, listen, if you invest in crypto, you are going to get rich. Tristan reveals what his teammates are asking him about crypto. And they even talk about XRP. Take a listen to this.
Teammates have started noticing this. They ask questions now, and guys are like, do I get more XRP? Do I buy more ETH? So like literally guys are texting me and then like in a group chat saying like, yo, it's pumping. Yeah, go check. I'm like, hold it, long term, guys. Think long. The same way you bet on yourself to get to the NBA, you gotta bet on these coins and bet on the space. Bet on what the future of digital finance is. Bet on that's what's gonna be our kids. That's the form of they're not going to be walking into these banks and these institutions. They're going to be literally having their wallets and being on a computer and literally managing their finance like this.
And he's right. The kids in the future are not going to be using the banking system. Everything is going to be done through a wallet. And that's the future. And take notice, he said, go long. Every retail investor should think the same way. Think like the institutions do. Institutions, they buy XRP. They're not looking to sell it as soon as possible. They don't even care if the price rises. They're still not going to sell it because they plan on utilizing that XRP in their own business model. They also look down the road at how big this actually is. They're not short-term thinkers, and you should not be a short-term thinker either. You should think about where this is all going. And with XRP, you could see it's already happening. Insights on crypto, XRP and the Ripple IPO. Take a listen to Dan Pantera here.
I would say I am surprised that kind of a broader mix of altcoins hasn't performed as well. Theoretically, the change in the SEC should be positive for things that are not Bitcoin, right? Because Bitcoin kind of had a safe haven in the previous administration, whereas even things like XRP were being, criticized by the SEC. So I would say that I would think that other currencies would start to perform well, but they really haven't. It's really just been the big three currencies.
Yeah, I thought actually Jeff Dorman from Arca, here's how he categorized it. He said, what's done well this year? Tokens with ETFs or DATs, Bitcoin, ETH, Sol, crypto stocks, right? Circle, Galaxy, Coinbase, U.S. government coins, XRP, Link, maybe people with ties to the administration, and then companies that are making a ton of money and passing it back to the token holders, right? Things like Hyperliquid, Pump, Syrup, Sky, things like that.
Yeah.
So,
well, yeah, and
that's basically it. And then there's there's dispersion for the first time really ever.
Yeah. So you did point out a hugely important theme is things that have a publicly traded access vehicle, either an ETF or a DAT. Those are the things, or a publicly listed company like Figure or Circle. Those are the things that are doing well. So it's the public markets access that's driving this.
Who should go public, basically?
Who
could and who should?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's great for our industry. Obviously, there's excess demand for publicly listed crypto companies. So I would love to see all those names that you just mentioned go public. I think it'd be great. Ripple Labs would be another one that could go public.
There's already suggesting that Ripple should go public and create that IPO. But that was Dan Moorhead from over there at Pantera. And take notice, he said Bitcoin got first mover advantage. Even with Biden in the White House, it was like Bitcoin had free run. It had space to grow and everybody was excited about Bitcoin because Ripple was still tied up with the SEC. XRP was being very suppressed. Then we got a new administration, and what happened? The price of XRP rose. It actually went up above $3. Very quickly, too. It seemed to recover, like the suppression was taken off of it. And now we have a level playing field. And that's why XRP is really going to start to shine now. Because before the Rippleverse SEC case, XRP was already the #2 cryptocurrency. What do you think is going to happen now? We got ETFs coming. We got regulatory clarity coming. We got ISO coming. Ripple maybe does an IPO. Plus, they get the banking license early 2026. It just keeps getting better and better for this cryptocurrency. And Ripple in general, because they're going to expand out and grow at the same time. This comes from Smoke. Public versus private blockchains. Ready for that conversation. Public blockchains are going mainstream in 2025, while private blockchain usage is falling rapidly. I think private blockchain usage, that's going to be more for the central bankers. I think they want to keep everything and all the power at the central bank. But public blockchains are very important when it comes to adoption. Public blockchains make it easy for projects to connect and grow together and invite everyone to take part. Private chains can end up closed off with a few people in control. Like I said, the central bankers not wanting to give up any power. Public chains offer a massive uplift in composability, interoperability, and inclusion. They lower the barrier to innovation. Private chains may feel safer, but they risk creating siloed pools of capital and gatekeepers. That's not the right long-term outcome. I think eventually everything will be public once private fails in the long term. I don't even see central bank digital currencies gaining a lot of traction now because most people are waking up to what a central bank digital currency is. There's better options out there today. Look at all the stable coins we have popping up. Now, when it comes to stable coins, I think we're going to see a bottleneck there as well. I even think we're going to see some end up depegging along the way, because there's no audits going on. At least Ripple is fully transparent with RLUSD. It looks like a safe, long-term stablecoin. I even think that at some point it could overtake USDT and USDC as well. FinTech, blockchain, and the upgrade of the global payment system. Take a listen to this.
Blockchain has been used also, finally, in this situation. Again, it hasn't been used in large magnitude in any of the other things that I talked about, except perhaps illegally, which, again, we don't have that much data about. But it has been used here in Ripple and JPM Coin. So just, I'm sure this audience, if you've come here, I'm sure you know what blockchain is. But for this talk, we'll just say it's a ledger. It keeps track of who owns a certain token. And you can just transfer ownership very quickly of a token from one person to another on the blockchain. And that happens instantaneously. Okay, so that's all I'll say for blockchain now. So I'm going to give two examples. One is Ripple and one is JPM Coin. So I'll talk about the differences in a minute, but the way it works is incredibly simple, right? It's that if you're US dollars, and again, I want to send money from the US to Korea. So all I do is I sell my US dollars and I buy a token. I'm going to talk about the two different kinds of tokens in a minute. But I sell my US dollar and I buy a token on a blockchain. And then all you do is you switch on the blockchain, you switch the ownership to the person that's supposed to get it. And that person sells the token for one, okay? So that's, whoa, that sounds like, whoa, that's so fast compared to all the, when I showed you all those arrows before. Okay, so let me just talk though. It's not quite as easy as it sounds. Let me just describe why. So Ripple is one company that's been doing this since 2012. Its token is called XRP. So Bitcoin is one thing that trades on a blockchain. You can have other things trading on blockchain, the tokens, and that's XRP. And this is public permissionless. So anyone that follows the rules can kind of join and participate in this blockchain. It's open and public, okay? So the way the system works is if I want to send this money, I will look in Ripple's system and look for someone to quote me a price for essentially changing my dollars into yuan. If I find something that I like, I will do this transaction. So this depends on what Ripple calls its on-demand liquidity system. And then if it works in seconds. But I just want to point out what it's depending on. Like the blockchain dream is to have no financial intermediaries, but you're depending on someone willing to buy your dollars and sell you the token. And then on the other side to buy your token and give you yuan. So you're relying on somebody, you're relying on a set of market participants, so maybe it's not exactly the same as a bank, but they're kind of, it's similar, right? So you're relying on market liquidity to get this to work. The other kind of way this is being done is JP Morgan Coin, for example. This is 2020. So this is not the blockchain dream. It's not public, anyone can participate. The only people who can play in this playground is JP Morgan and its clients, okay? But they have...
Take notice how he said, when it comes to JP Morgan coin, it can only be utilized by JP Morgan and their clients. Now, JP Morgan can end up sending JP Morgan, giving it more use case by transacting through JP Morgan coin over XRP. So it would go in as JP Morgan coin into XRP and come out as any other currency. And because Ripple is open, we will see more adoption for Ripple's technology, and we'll see more usage of XRP. That's why every single stablecoin is still going to need a bridge currency. It's still going to need something like XRP. And the reason I wanted to bring this up as well is because right now everybody's still talking about the public ledger and the private ledger. They're like, the price of XRP is in the thousands on the private ledger, and on the public ledger it's only sitting around $3. But when the banks come out of the testing phase, whatever the price of XRP is on the private ledger, that's also going to be reflected on the public ledger. So if the banks all agree that to utilize something like XRP, the price has to be $1,000, then that's what the price will be when they come out of the testing phase. So us as retail investors would see the same price. There's no place where XRP is two different prices, because if that was the case, people would just buy it out of the public, off the exchanges, and then they would go over and sell it on the private ledger for thousands of dollars. It doesn't even make sense. There's only one price for XRP. I wanted to clear that up because that conversation is also coming back around. But at the end of all of this, we are going to get rich. Anybody that thinks that's not going to happen most likely doesn't have the patience to make it until we see the price points that will make that happen. But it is absolutely coming. And you want to be here for that. Don't sell too soon. And when you see the price of XRP rising up over the coming weeks and the coming months, you can't fall into that. You can't say, okay, well, XRP just reached $10. I'm out. I made enough money. I'm out. But you know what's going to continue to happen? You're selling off into US dollars or other currencies. And at the same time, inflation is still rising. So you just sold into something that's going to continue to lose value. Why not stay invested into something that's only going to gain value? And until it happens, stay patient, stay positive, and let's get rich together. With that said, I'm going to wrap up this video. I want to thank you all for watching. I appreciate all of you. I'll see you in the next one. Have a great night.